What's going on, shoe fanatics? Welcome back to the channel. Once again, we got another special unboxing. And speaking of a box, let's go ahead and take a look at it. You have a very nice special box for this particular release. I'm trying to move this guy around, get some of the angles so you can see how the cement splatter is reflective. I mean, I love how this raised texture of the cement splatters on this box. Chef's kiss. And of course, you have that signature flight on the front of the box with the Tor yellow Jumpman and a white flight logo. Size tag reads Air Jordan 4 Retro, black, white, Tor yellow. When you do open the box, you have a Tor yellow interior inside the box. You also have cement splatter paper on the inside. And back for the first time since 2012, ladies and gentlemen, I am beyond pleased to present to you the Air Jordan 4 Thunder. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, this shoe makes its return in over a decade. Before we get into that though, first we're going to talk about the shoe and then we're going to talk about the shoe. On the bottom, you have the standard Air Jordan 4 traction with that herringbone traction. It's multi-directional herringbone traction. And for some reason, I really like the way this particular sole looks. It's got this glossy look to it, which I know is not going to last because, of course, they're going to wear the shoes. They're going to get, crusty, dusty, burnt to a crisp and all that other stuff. But for some reason, I like this kind of new car smell, new car look of the sole on the bottom of the shoe. In addition to that nice new car finish on this glossy black sole, you have the Tor yellow colorway here, as well as a white Jumpman down here on the instep. And for those of you wondering why there's a Jumpman here instead of your Nike Air, we'll talk about that in a minute. Coming up to the midsole, you have that visible air unit, a staple of the Air Jordan 4. Again, Tinker Hatfield design, the man who created the Air Max. No wonder there's an invisible air unit in this particular shoe. You have a Tor yellow colorway, as well as a black little bit of hint right here on the mudguard. Coming up, you have a nice suede, I think was probably a nubuck. I promise you, I'm gonna get my materials together. I'll get there one day. For right now, I think that this is a nubuck, and it's a pretty nice looking nubuck. Nice in the fact that it has no ash to it. It doesn't have any kind of dusty look to it. It's a nice, consistent looking, nice colored nubuck all over the shoe. As with most every Air Jordan 4, you have cages on the side with the lateral and medial side of the shoe, as well as down here at the bottom of the tongue. Beneath those cages is a mesh material in that Tor yellow colorway. For those of you who don't know, the design cue comes from Tinker Hatfield wanted this shoe to be more breathable for MJ, because athletes, they work up a big sweat. A lot of them have foot fungus and athlete's foot and all that kind of stuff. So he wanted to make sure this shoe was very breathable and light. So take some material out here, there, and there, give it a breathable kind of design, and the rest is history. These crowns or these lace holes are not necessarily a plastic, but they're not like kind of soft rubber, but they feel like a rubberized Tor yellow material, especially up here on the wings part of it. This kind of material is definitely ranges from shoe to shoe. On this particular one, it's a nice rubber, which is definitely more forgiving on the foot. But as an example, on the Craft 4s, the actual wings are in the leather material. Continuing on to the rear of the shoe, you have a Jumpman logo. Again, I'll talk about that a little bit later. And you have, again, the infamous Achilles cutter. This particular one is probably a rubber material. I do feel like this can range from a very soft rubber to a hard plastic, depending on the model. On the front of the tongue, you have the signature flight patch, which is a white Jumpman with a yellow flight insignia. And on the rear, standard for most Air Jordan 4s, you have Air Jordan written upside down. And surrounding that, you have that Tor yellow material and the cushioning. The sock liner itself feels like your standard Air Jordan 4 fabric. Nothing to write home about really, as opposed to like the Wizards 3 PE I just reviewed. That one felt like a nylon, like a much smoother material than what's on this particular fabric. And I never know if the camera's gonna pick this up, but trust and believe when I say the insole is a black insole with a white Jumpman on the inside. And as far as the shoe itself is concerned, that's pretty much it. It's a nice Air Jordan 4 that has come back for the first time since 2012. With this particular shoe, a lot of purists feel like Jordan Brand finally got this thing right. This shoe initially debuted in 2006, the first time we had seen this colorway. A lot was going on with Michael Jordan and Jordan Brand around that time, and this shoe speaks volumes to that. Now, I know a lot of you want to forget this fact, but Michael Jordan did play in an era post-Chicago Bulls. He played with the Washington Wizards until about 2003. Now, after that, it can be hard for a person as great and dedicated to the sport as Michael Jordan to just hang up and just kind of roll over and die. We know MJ had to feed his gambling addiction, his competitive fire, and what he ended up doing was starting a motorsport business. MJ took a liking to riding motorcycles, and he happened to be on a cruise one night just out by himself to avoid paparazzi, fans, and the like, and at the gas station he bumped into a fellow motorcycle enthusiast. After striking up a conversation with the enthusiast that he met, he and said enthusiast ended up starting a motorcycle or a motorsport business centered around MJ's passion for riding bikes. So that newfound passion, Jordan Brand executives tasked the design team to come up with a shoe or a series of shoes centered around his new love. Around that time, he had a lot of motorsport themed shoes, like including the Motorsport Jordan 6, which is kind of hit or miss, but it's got the big 2-3 on the back. It's got that kind of, motorsport racing inspired motif to it. And that's where you get that kind of inspiration from. And flash forward, you then get a 3-pack of the Jordan 4 inspired by that motorsport racing. And that 3-pack included the Air Jordan 4 Thunder, the Air Jordan 4 Lightning, and from what I can tell, the very hard to come by Air Jordan 4 Tour Yellow. As far as I know, that Air Jordan 4 Tour Yellow is the only one of the pack that has not had a re-release. Those of you who don't know, the Lightning re-released in 2021 or 2022. And of course, you have the return of the Thunder here in 2023. Now, when both these shoes initially dropped in 2006, they were kind of hard to come by. We're used to paying $200 some odd for these pairs now, but back in the day, these shoes were about $125 to $150. With the exception of this particular pack, I believe these shoes was about $200, and these shoes were about $250, both in limited quantities. Not to mention having a limited run, I think of about 500 pair of shoes or so. This one actually had like a motorcycle jacket that came along with it. This particular one, I believe, had like a lanyard and a t-shirt that was kind of exclusive to the entire pack. For sure, I wasn't outside at that time, not collecting shoes, and especially not spending $750 on 2 pairs of shoes and some apparel. But now at my big age, I'm glad to have this shoe back and in the rotation. Earlier on, what I said, purists are glad to have this shoe back in this particular iteration because it more truly matches the OG specifications. As you guys know, most Jordans have taken on a new look from the time they first came out as the OG spec, and when they read retro until now. Jordan Brand has done a lot of tooling and retooling with the size, shape, and feel of how the shoe looks. This particular shoe has a much more pronounced slope as opposed to the 2012 version, which had a little bit of a stubbier shape of the toe. In addition to that, small little subtle hints, like the actual crown on this shoe, there's this kind of little yellow piece that's on each side of the corners. On the actual 2012 version, this is missing. What Jordan Brand has been doing is coming back to their roots with some of the OG specifications, and people are a lot happier for that. Even small things like, hopefully the camera will pick this up, but the yellow liner on the lateral and medial side of the lace holes, like this is something that's new to the actual Thunder shoe for this year. On the 2012, it was not there. One more little interesting tidbit. When we first got the leaked images of this shoe, the stitching around the toe cap was white, and that drove people absolutely nuts. They went crazy about it, and I actually don't know what happened to that particular pair. I don't know if it was a sample, if it was a flat out fake or replica pair. I do not know, but there was an image floating around. I'm gonna see if I can try to find it and maybe post it up right here, and it had the white stitching around here, and people were mad. They were big mad about that. Thankfully, for whatever reason, hopefully that was not a real shoe, but Jordan Brand decided to go ahead and re-release it with the proper black stitching. Weird times. That's also kind of what you get for running around with these early leaks. So as I mentioned, like most non-OG shoes and most non-collabs, this does have a Jordan Brand insignia on the back. Why is that? Well, around the time these shoes have been created, 2002, 3, 4, 5, and 6, Jordan had been trying to distance itself from Nike as a brand. So what that meant was no shoe going forward was going to have a Nike Air on the back. I can remember seeing black cement 4s. I can remember seeing infrared 6s. None of them had Nike Air on the back. They all had the Jumpman logo. This is also why I believe we have a lot of Jordan 1s, like the 2009 version of the DMP one, the Boston Celtics one that has the Jumpman on the back. I mean, there's a ton of shoes with Jumpmans on the back, and that plan was, again, to distance themselves from Nike branding. So hopefully you won't let a small thing like a Jumpman versus a Nike Air scare you off from purchasing the shoe. I would always encourage people to buy what they like for that reason and that reason alone. But if you're kind of on the fence, don't let that part take you out. So as far as sizing, I always go true to size of my Jordan 4s. These things can get a little snug. Sometimes they can be a little uncomfortable. So if you're gonna buy these shoes, I would definitely recommend you buy your true size. I found myself having to use this disclaimer a lot, but of course, you know, this is not a resale channel. I have no idea what the value of these will or won't be in any given amount of time. You can take a look at these Lightning 4s as an example and see wherever they're at. You can probably imagine these will be there in due time. Take that for what it's worth. And most of you should also remember, I believe last year, 2022, maybe around this time, we had the Jordan 4 Red Thunder, which was basically this particular shoe with some kind of red accent on it. I don't remember if it was a varsity red or a team red, but whatever it is, I just happened to skip that particular release. And on the aftermarket, it actually did numbers. So, I mean, you know, it is what it is. If you had that shoe and you're going to keep it for some kind of resale, I mean, good on you. But for me, the yellow in this shoe just pops a lot more. I understand red and black, the whole Chicago Bulls kind of theme, but the yellow on this one is just much better to me than that red Thunder. What also happens, and in my opinion is what's bound to happen, is you're going to get a multitude of rainbow colors in this kind of blocking. It's only a matter of time before we get the blue Thunder, the pine green Thunder, the orange Thunder. I mean, stay tuned, it's going to come. To be expected, there are no spare pair of laces in the box. You just have your black flat cotton lace. That being said, I'm gonna go outside, guys. I'm gonna give you on foot like I always do. I am gonna do a lace swap. Okay, you're gonna see a little bit of a lace swap. Some options just to give you guys a little bit of flash, panache, pizzazz, whatever you want to call it. Something a little different. But overall, I think the shoe is nice as it is. Set to debut this Saturday, May 15th, in a full-size family run starting at $210 for the men's pair. This has been the Air Jordan 4 Thunder. Hope you guys enjoyed this review. And if you did, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button and throw me a like. Until the next one, I have been Jay Shoe Fanatic, and I am out of here. I can smell it. Oh, the original cut. There it absolutely is. I might like it better than the 2020 version. Those on right, and I had to have it.